Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair. Today we're going to be looking at a well-worn 1996 Gibson SG Special in Arctic White. Let's take a look. Okay, where to start on this thing? Okay, so I picked this one up locally. I've been kind of really into these SG Specials lately. You can usually pick them up for a pretty good price, and they're excellent guitars. They're one of the few Gibson USA models that have the ebony fretboard, and I really like the ebony fretboard. It just feels great, super slick, and yeah, it's just kind of a premium wood that you only usually see on the custom shop in Gibson. So that's a big factor. Also, 90s made USA Gibsons have a reputation of being extremely well made. They're starting to go for a premium in terms of price now, because people are kind of realizing how good they are. And yeah, just really well made guitars with really good woods and materials back then. But this one has been to hell and back. So the guy that I bought it from wasn't really a guitar player. He had got this in lieu of payment for some services he had done for work, and this just kind of sat in his closet. He didn't really know how to play. And he just ended up deciding to sell it. But this guitar has been RELIC'D, apparently. Either that or it's just been through some extreme humidity issues or weather or something. But you can see it's got finish checking everywhere. But the kind of finish checking that it has is kind of all over the place. So that kind of tells me that this was a manufactured checking. So how you can do that is a couple different ways. You can throw your guitar in the freezer. You can use canned air to freeze the surface and then use a heat gun, and that kind of shocks the finish into like cracking or checking. But yeah, it's this definitely looks like a man-made relicing job, which is cool. I mean, I'm not sure what happened to the finish otherwise. This is an Arctic white finish, and that's known to age into kind of a cream color, which this is now. But I don't know if that was manufactured too somehow, or if this just sat in the sun forever in a windowsill somewhere. Maybe that is to do with the checking too. It heated up in the window or something. I don't know. I'm not really sure the story behind this. But what we get now is a really vintage looking guitar that's not necessarily that old, 1996. So, but this thing looks like it's a 60s now. However, I do think it looks really cool. I'm a big fan of relicing. I really don't like to do it myself because I just yeah, I can't really bring myself to doing that to an expensive guitar. But I do appreciate the way it looks. But yeah, it's all over the place. So yeah, we've got that nice checking everywhere, and it really has aged into that cream color everywhere on the guitar as well. And they kind of left the neck alone. There's a few small spots. You cannot feel these checks here on the neck. Some of the other spots on the body you can slightly feel it, but for the most part you can't. So the neck's nice. You can see there's a lot of different coloring on the neck, just different stages of aging. Some yellower, some whiter, so. And then, yeah, another thing that can really yellow a finish like this is smoke. Like if it's in a heavy smoking home or something like that, or if it's been gigged in dirty old smoky bars. But this guitar doesn't have a smoke smell. Usually you can smell that right away on a guitar. And this one does not have it. Our tuners have been swapped to Grovers. So you see this a lot on vintage guitars as well. They won't even bother matching the screws. They'll just throw some Grovers on there, put new screw holes in there, and that's just kind of how it looks. So I was debating maybe filling those holes and making it look a little better, but I think that kind of adds to the aesthetic as well. So I think I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm not going to do much in this guitar. I think all I'm going to do is seal the spots that are bare wood. Like there are a couple dings in here. So this goes to the wood. I like to seal anything that goes to the wood just with a couple drops of lacquer. I won't even color match this just to retain the aesthetic, but I like just to make sure that no moisture is getting into that wood and causing some swelling problems. Yeah, so another thing that's been done to this guitar is the back pickup has been swapped. So originally this is a P90R, P90T set that came in these guitars, which is a very nice set of pickups. They're kind of PAF style, vintage style pickups. Not quite the same as the 490, 498 pickup sets. Those are a little hotter, but these ones are a little bit more vintage voiced. But someone swapped out the back pickup with, this is actually a Lindy, well, this is what he told me it is. He says it's a Lindy Fralin pickup. And I tried it out, and it's definitely like a single coil sound. Like, this is definitely a humbucker, and this is definitely like more of a single coil. And I looked it up on the website, and the only thing I can find that matches the description and how it sounds is this is a Lindy Fralin P92, which is kind of a cleaner sounding P90 that they make. It's hum canceling as well. So this is a P90 in like a humbucker sized pickup. Also, it's hum canceling and a little bit cleaner sounding. So this is kind of an odd combination when I tried it. I can go ahead and plug it in just so you can hear. But you've got the clean P90 in the lead position and then a humbucker in the neck. So that's kind of like a Telly style combination, like Keith Richards. So it's kind of odd in an SG, but luckily I actually happen to have a 90s era 490 pickup that I'm going to install back into this guitar. So it even looks the part. It's aged, it's got some rust on there. It looks just right at home in this guitar, like it just came with it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in there and then sell the P90 to, you know, recoup some of the cost on this guitar. And yeah, then we'll just go through everything, see what other components may have been replaced, get some specs, and then we'll plug it in and try it out. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show is the headstock has been aged as well. So you see this on a lot of 90s guitars just without any relicing, is it's kind of the lacquer starting to lift off of the headstock. I've seen that on many 90s guitars, Gibsons. So I'm not sure if there was just an issue with how they were finishing it back then or what, or if this has been intentionally done, but this is lifting all the way to the point where there's actually lacquer missing from the wood on the headstock. So I'm going to go ahead and seal those parts with some lacquer, but that's about it, just to seal the bare wood parts. Alright, let's just plug it in quickly before we swap the pickups or anything and just check to see how that back pickup sounds. So yeah, this pickup doesn't sound bad by any means. It sounds great in context, but I mean, it just sounds a little strange on an SG to have a super twangy pickup in the back and a single coil and then a super like beefy humbucker in the neck. So I mean, that's kind of like on a Telecaster with the humbucker kind of a sound. So yeah, it's kind of cool, it's kind of quirky, but I'm gonna go ahead and swap this pickup back to the original 490 just because I prefer that. Alright, so the first thing we'll do is just quickly swap this pickup. Take off the pick guard and see what the electronics look like under here. So, okay. So yes, our suspicions were correct. This is a Lindy Fralin P92 pickup. So yeah, it is a single coil that's a little bit cleaner sounding, and it's a humbucker sized P90 that also has hum canceling, so it's kind of a cool pickup. I'm glad that this little piece of paper stayed on, because it seems like that's the only way to identify this pickup. There's nothing on the back, so if you lose this little piece of paper, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to figure out what this pickup is. It also is dated, so this is dated to 1992 October. So this is quite an older pickup. This is a 96 guitar, so someone had swapped it out with an older pickup. And then we can see our regular 490 in the neck position. And that just really matches the one that we're going to put in there, which is the another 490 in the bridge, 490R, 490T set. And yeah, everything looks good that way. So let's quickly check out our routes while we're here. Yeah, the routes look nice and clean, crazy clean, considering the era. Usually there was like lots of tear out and stuff from dull router bits in this era of Gibson and USA. But there we can see our long neck tendon. So that's why I really like these guitars. They got some really nice premium specs, and then you can usually find them for a decent price too. So it's got a long neck tendon, it's got the ebony fingerboard, and it's got the ABR1 bridge, which is kind of reserved for the higher end and custom shop models. So yeah, there's our bridge there, Gibson ABR1, and we've got our thinner bridge posts, and we've got our cast line full weight tailpiece. So nice specs. Alright, so I'm having a little bit of an issue where the screws for the pickups are just sliding right through the holes here. So what happened was, so I bought this pickup off Reverb quite a while ago, and I just kind of threw it away or put it aside, never used it. So I didn't really realize this problem, but someone has used too big of screws on this pickup at one point in time and like forced that hole way bigger than it should be. So I just want to show you a little tip on how to deal with that if that ever happens. It's just a quick and easy process to fix that. So I'm just using my solder gun here and a little bit of solder. And all you do is you just partially block these holes with a small amount of solder. And what that does is just gives it something for the screw to grip onto and screw into. And that fixes the problem pretty easily. And I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm just going to put a little blob of solder, and I'm going to block it like just like halfway, just like so, just so that the screw has something to grab on. And the same thing for this side. So I'm not filling the whole thing, just about halfway. And that's all. And now the screw has something to grab when it's going in there. It'll actually make new threads through the solder, and that'll hold the screw in place. Alright, so aside from the one pickup being swapped, it looks like our electronics have been left alone. We still got our original pots and everything, and it looks like this is the, yeah, this is the bridge. So yeah, this is the pickup that we want to replace. So it's pretty easy. There's just 2 points that we need to solder here. So the lead and then the shielded cable is the ground. So we're just going to heat up these 2 points, take this off, and then replace it with the new pickup. Then we're just going to feed this pickup wire through the cavity so it can go to the back. You can put the pick guard back on just to make it a little easier. Make sure the wires are fed where they're supposed to go through the routes. And then I'll just throw in a screw or two just to keep it in place. See our new wire that's been fed through now. Put on the shielding piece that was on there before. And this just protects the ground from touching anything it shouldn't be. Because technically the ground is the cable wire. Is the outside of the cable. So if that touches something it shouldn't, then we can get some issues. Just went ahead and soldered that lead back into the position where it's supposed to go, and then grounded my shielding cable to the pot there. So this should be good to go. I'm going to try it out quickly before I move ahead just to make sure that it's working properly. Alright, I'm just going to test these out. So I'm in the lead position, which is the pickup that I just swapped. So yeah, the volume's working. And I think the tone's working. Yeah, so the volume and the tone's working in each position now, so yeah, that worked. Alright, let's have a quick look at the headstock and the neck. So yeah, these parts of the headstock here, where you can see all the finish that is flaked off, that was actually bare wood there. So what I did is I took some lacquer and I just drop filled in there. So it's just to provide some sort of finish there, just to protect the wood from getting any moisture. If the moisture gets into the wood, you get other problems like swelling and weird stuff like that. So I went ahead and finished that. So it still looks the same. It's just, you know, it's actually sealed. So you can see the neck has that lifting lacquer throughout. It kind of provides a neat effect. Definitely looks RELIC'D, but this happened a lot to guitars in the 90s. I don't know if it's just the part of the manufacturing process they were doing, but you see it a lot. There's a look at our truss rod. So yeah, no threads are showing, and it's in good shape, so lots of room for adjustment. There's our nice dark ebony fingerboard. It's really, there's no actual nail pitting. It's actually just grunge on there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up. And the frets are looking pretty dull as well, so I'm going to run those through the buffer. And here it is after cleaning the fingerboard and polishing the frets. So yeah, quite a big difference. The frets are all super shiny now, and the fingerboard's nice and clean. It's a really nice dark ebony fingerboard. It looks great. Alright, managed to get quite a nice setup on this guitar, so I'll show you what I mean. So yeah, you can see there's just a tiny little line of space between the notch straight edge and the fretboard. That means that the truss rod is set pretty straight. And in order to get really low action, you need a pretty straight truss rod, but your frets need to be nice and level to be able to do that. So here I am using the 3rd fret. You can see that the 1st fret, the string is just resting very nicely against it. So that means I've got nice low action here by the nut, and my nut is also cut very nicely. Otherwise, these strings wouldn't be resting quite as nicely against the 1st fret. And then here we are at the 12th fret. On the low E, we're sitting at about just under 1.5 millimeters, and at the high E, just at 1 millimeter. So that's how I like to set all my guitars. I like to speed this section of my videos up because it's boring to watch in real time, but if you want to watch it in real time, just slow the speed of the player down to 0.25 speed. Alright, I'm plugged into the One True King rig. Enough of that. Alright, so I'm going to go through each of the tones here. I'm going to start off in the bridge pickup. We're going to start off clean. So I typically do bridge, neck, middle. And then we're going to switch on some overdrive and see how that sounds. So yeah, sounds really nice clean. One thing I notice is the bridge is really bright. And the neck is really dark. And the middle is just kind of a perfect balance of both. So yeah, it's a nice combination. Gonna try it with a little bit of overdrive now. final thoughts on this 1996 SG Special in Arctic White. Yeah, I think this is the third time I've tried one of these things, and every time it's been awesome. Like, these are awesome guitars. They're always just super nice quality. The frets are always perfect on them. I really like the ebony fretboard. Looks great. I like the long neck tenon. I like the weight. They're always super light. I like the ABR1 bridge. I like the full weight tailpiece. I really like the pickups. The 490R, 490T set are awesome. And this one kind of speaks to me aesthetically as well, because I really like the way this thing looks. It looks super badass. Like, it's a really aged white, like definitely a cream now, and all that checking just adds so much character. It looks really cool. And yeah, I filled all these little dings and everything, so there's no issues with the wood, any moisture getting into the wood. And yeah, it's just the more I look at it, the more I like it. It's just a really actually pretty nice relic job on this. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it looks great. And I forgot to mention, these knobs have been replaced. These are like really vintage, old school, like top witch hat reflector knobs, which look pretty cool on this guitar. And yeah, we switched the pickup back to a 90s 490, and it really suits the guitar well. I really like that Lindy Fralin, but just not for this guitar, so I think I'm going to put it in something else. But that's another video. And yeah, checking looks really great. The frets are just super crazy shiny now and super polished, so they really play super nicely. They bend like effortlessly, and that feels great with that nice low action. And yeah, there is some finish missing from the side of the fretboard. Usually goes all the way up to the frets, but someone has sanded this or relic'd it, so yeah, some of it's missing, so you can definitely feel it, but it doesn't affect playability, but you do feel a little something there. And then someone has changed the tuners on it to Grovers. The Grovers work really well. The guitar stays in tune very nicely, but you still have those holes there. I actually did go ahead and fill those holes, so those are just cosmetic. There's no moisture going to be able to get into those. And the headstock was over relic'd to the point where the lacquer was just chipping off and there was big pieces missing. So I went ahead and drop filled that as well. So you still get that nice cool vintage look, but the wood's all protected as well. And yeah, there's not a lot of USA made Gibsons where you can get ebony, and I really like ebony fingerboards. They feel great. They're just so slidey and smooth, and yeah, they're definitely a premium wood, but they're great. This one actually has real mother of pearl dot inlays as well. Another kind of spec that's usually reserved for the custom shop. So yeah, very nice guitar. I have one just like it, so I have that cool Miss Blue one that I just did a bunch of work on, so I'm going to have to choose between the two because I can't really have both. But this one looks really cool. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'm going to have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.